Welcome to an episode of Sport Talk, and welcome to Week 16 of the 2024 NFL season. That's right, we're down to the final 3 weeks of the NFL season, and it's coming down to the wire for some areas. Out there in the AFC for the playoff push, 3 divisions have been clinched. Buffalo, Kansas City, and Houston have all won their respective divisions. The Steelers are in. On the NFC side, it's only the Eagles and Lions have clinched playoff berths, clinched a division or playoff position, but no divisions are clinched. The two divisions that are all pretty much dead heats. With NFC South, with Tampa Bay leading by a game, and out there in the West, the Rams and Seahawks are tied, with the Rams having a slight advantage. Arizona 1 game back, San Francisco 2 games back. And for the South, you still have the Saints barely hanging on by skin of their teeth. So you see a lot of very unique aspects. MVP race, I think everyone could probably say that Josh Allen is in the lead in that category. Saquon's kind of fallen off a bit. Lamar is definitely still up in there. I still put up Jared Goff up there. He's had phenomenal numbers as well. But there's just a lot of things come around. So before I dive into the full slate of Week 16 matchups, we're going to go a quick fire round of Week 15. And I did extremely well. If it wasn't for 2 picks that I kind of went the opposite of what the spread was, I would have been undefeated. That's right. I went 14-2. I don't expect to see that mark ever again. But definitely something I was quite shocked with, where it just kept win after win after win after win. So let's start off with last Thursday, Rams and 49ers. No touchdowns given. All field goals. Rams were a little bit better in that aspect, setting up drives to get there. Defenses were then stoic enough to kind of, hey, that's just kind of bend but don't break, and only call for field goals, but also didn't really capitalize on anything, any big plays. And they get stalled towards the red zone and just end up kicking it, but that's all it was. Huge baseball game between the Dodgers and Giants, 12-6. On Sunday, my first upset pick was the Browns knock off the Chiefs because the Browns were playing extremely well. However, the Browns decided not to show up offensively. James Winston was definitely not a big factor, but at what cost to the Chiefs? Chiefs only scored 21 points, so their offense is still having issues. If they faced a better offensive team, it probably could be a different story. Also, Patrick Mahomes got injured in this game. Come to find out it's a high ankle sprain. His ability to play in Week 16 is questionable. Been a lot of talk of just benching him for the rest of the season. That's not how they work. If he's actually injured, and not just hurt, then yes, he needs to sit out. But if he's hurt, he can play through it. Let him play through it. Because the Chiefs need at least to win, I think, 2 of the next 3 games to guaranteed home field advantage. If they can win 16-17, bench Mahomes. Then you have 18 week off. You have 2 weeks to recover and go from there. But we'll see what happens moving forward with Kansas City. At Nashville, pretty big matchup between the two. One of the highlights was the defensive lineman for the Titans snagging the ball from Burrow, running, stiff-arming a lineman. I mean, just obliterated him and ran. He didn't go all the way, but still. Big man just showing what he can do on the ground and try to ensure that, they get represented. But after this game, Will Levis was benched. I think we knew that's a matter of time. Mason Rudolph has now been named a starter for the Titans. Down there in New Orleans, Washington kind of struggled a bit as Daniels had 2 touchdown passes. He also ran for 66 yards as well. The Saints were trying their damnedest to do it, to get in there. Alvin Kamara was doing everything he possibly could, making one-handed grabs. And it was a failed 2-point try at the end of the game. I mean, they went for the win. They're like, screw it, we're going for the win. And they couldn't get it, and Washington was able to escape the Saints 2019. Baltimore took on the G-Men, wasn't even close. Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdowns, almost 300 yards. The Ravens rolled the Giants. Out there in Charlotte, I thought, because the way Carolina's been playing teams the past 3 weeks, I mean, taking good teams to the limit. Then once the Cowboys came to town, they'll be able to handle business and get the win. It was only 10-7. It was still a close game. Carolina had a chance to win, but the second half, they didn't show up. I don't know. They started to get the UNC Charlotte team, the Charlotte 49ers, to replace them at the second half, because they were pretty much not heard of. I mean, that defense just totally collapsed. Dallas rolled 30-14. Cooper Rush threw for 3 touchdowns, a career high for him. And Dallas's slim playoff hopes are still alive. The Jags gave the Jets all they could handle. Mac Jones, new life, almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Jaguars. And you look at Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, they pretty much did a old school, what they used to do back in Green Bay to the NFC North teams. But they struggled overall as the Jets were able to get past Jacksonville 32-25. Down in Houston, Miami came to town trying to get a leg up in that wild card race. Tua Tagovailoa had a hard time towards the end of the game. I do remember seeing the end of this game, and had a hard time staying upright. Had time to find his receivers. A turnover Miami 4 times, including right at the end of the game, to pretty much end any chance for the Dolphins, as the Houston's to slip past Miami 20-12. Up there in the Mile High City, Broncos and Colts going at it, and it was going back and forth between the two. 13-all heads in the final frame, and that's when the floodgates open. And they're trying to do – Colts trying to do a gimmicky play. I can't remember, it was a receiver, running back. He went to one side of the field. He's trying to throw it across the field, kind of a lateral back across the field. And one of the Broncos defenders read that perfectly, intercepted the ball midair, ran it in untouched. And that started the floodgates for the Broncos, as the Broncos ended up scoring 21 points in that final frame, winning 31-13. Buffalo and Detroit. Buffalo was up on Detroit from the get-go, scoring 14 points on the ground. They were just rushing all over Detroit in this game. Jared Goff had a career game, almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and still lost. If Goff is not in the conversation for MVP, I don't know what you guys are looking at, because he has done a lot of good things. Yes, he had one bad game. That's why he's not the MVP, but he should be in the conversation somewhere. And it was amazing watching these two teams go back and forth. Unfortunately, Detroit lost 3 more players out of this game. This is a mash unit right now, especially on defense. They're signing players off the streets. But you can score 40 points and still lose. That says something about the defense. It was a high-scoring affair, 90 points between them, as Buffalo ended up beating Detroit 48-42. Philadelphia for another huge match of the week, the Keystone State Bowl. And the Steelers were without George Pickens, which means their offense had a little bit different look to it. And during the game, T.J. Watt got injured. Justin Fields got injured. in Philadelphia, all the talk was about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown not coalescing, and then there's no passing love anymore. So Saquon took a step back, so he didn't have a 100-yard game. They let Jalen Hurts come out there. Made sure A.J. Brown scored early. A.J. Brown had over 100 yards. Devontae Smith also had 100 yards receiving. And you could tell the cockiness between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts did with the reporters afterwards. So that seems to be the Philadelphia swagger. It's what's driving them. I don't know, making, light of what possibly could have been or what possibly is, and then just throwing it back in the face for reporters that report it. But Philadelphia handled Pittsburgh. And we'll see what happens with Pittsburgh if their stars be available next week. Patriots went out to Arizona. Not a close contest. It was all James Conner, really, for the Cardinals. He ended up scoring 2 touchdowns and having over 100 yards rushing, as the Cardinals were just way too much for New England, 30-17. Out in L.A., Baker returned to SoFi Stadium, where he kind of spent half a season with the Rams. And beginning of the game, looking pretty close, 13-10, or 17-13, excuse me. Chargers had the lead, but second half, Chargers failed to show back up, and Baker just took off. Over 200 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Mike Evans, almost 160 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Irving had over 100 yards on the ground rushing, as Baker just had a field day against the Chargers and routed them 40-17. Green Bay heads up to Seattle, and Jordan Love had a field day up there as well. Green Bay's defense, which is all over Geno Smith, he ended up getting injured as well. Looked like he tweaked his knee. And Green Bay was just all over him. Josh Jacobs was having a field day, almost 100 yards with a touchdown. Jordan Love had two passing touchdowns as Green Bay dominates Seattle 30-13. Then the Monday night doubleheader, Minnesota, way too much for Chicago. Chicago definitely looked a fish out of water. The Bears look like they're trying to hibernate. That's what it's looking like. Caleb Williams has no time to throw. Offensive line is terrible. This team has gotten worse now after firing Eberflus. And they could be trying to destroy Caleb Williams and having any successful career, much like what the Jets have done with quite a few quarterbacks. But, yeah, definitely rough skies ahead for Chicago, especially for the rest of the season. You have 3 more games. They may be able to pull off 1 win in those 3 games, but beyond that, all the high hopes I have for the season are gone. And then the Falcons took on the Raiders. Ritter taking on his former team, the team that drafted him. Didn't really have a very good game overall because the Lions defense was interfering a lot. And it was a ugly game. Kirk Cousins finally had a touchdown. He has seen that in a few weeks, but he had another interception. And the lack of the ability to play and get things going for the Falcons led them to bench Kirk Cousins in favor of Penix Jr. So we'll see how that one transpires. But that was the week. 14-2. A lot of big names are getting injured, which will definitely dictate what's going to happen in Week 16. We'll start welcoming the Saturday games because college football regular season is now done, so NFL can now start showing some Saturday games. And we'll kick things off back in SoFi with the Chargers playing host to the Broncos. And this is going to be an interesting matchup. Can the Chargers uphold? These past 3 weeks, that Chargers offense has been, actually most of the season, the Chargers offense has been kind of vanilla, very plain. The past 3 weeks, they've only scored 17 points in each game and lost 2 of those. Denver has also struggled in a lot of games, but then find ways to pull it out in the end. They like to kind of play behind the 8 ball sometimes. I mean, the game against Denver was a shootout. The game against the Colts was pretty damn close until that fourth quarter where, they pulled away. One play changed the outcome of that game. Bo Nix is just that rookie quarterback that no one's talking about. Everyone looks at Caleb Williams and Daniels out there in Washington, but Bo Nix is really starting to elevate his game plan. He's almost a 3,000-yard passer with 20 touchdowns, but he does have 11 picks. Justin Herbert, on the other side, doesn't quite throw as many errant passes because he only has 2 interceptions, but being questionable kind of for this game tends to have me thinking one direction. And even though everything's pointing towards the Chargers right now, because I think everyone thinks the Chargers are the better team, I think Denver's defense, I think, is a little more stacked. They have good offensive players as well. I think this will be a close game. I have no quorums in that one. Right now, the Chargers are favored by 3. I know analytically they're favored as well. And I'm bucking the trend. I think I did it last week with the 49ers because they were picked against the Rams. I'm taking Denver to win in L.A. I just think Denver right now is in a better position than the Chargers. I do think the Chargers are probably going to get a couple more wins, or at least one more win for the last 3. So I think the Chargers will definitely be in, but I think Denver's like way ahead of the scale in terms of availability of where this team should really be at. But Nix has really bought into the Sean Payton system. He's really thrived under it, and I think Denver will end up edging out the Chargers. On Saturday, that's right, Saturday games, Houston will go into Kansas City for a marquee game between 2 playoff-bound teams. Now, a huge thing to really consider is Patrick Mahomes able to play, and will he play for long? That's going to be a key factor in this game because that Houston front is hungry. They're like sharks. They smell blood in the water. They are going to go after Patrick Mahomes, and he has not performed well under pressure this season. He does throw errant passes. He already has 11 interceptions already this season. He just seems to find ways to win because the defense kind of keeps him in games, which allows him to work his magic, and his offensive weapons he has are able to accommodate his playing style and make him look good. Nothing against that. You always got to have those guys there that, really help you out. Pacquiao needs to step up his game. Hunt needs to step up his game. Try to help maybe get more, and Watkins trying to get more at running plays out of him to really kind of spread that defense out for the Texans so that way Mahomes can exploit other directions. But that front is going to be in that backfield a lot, and that offensive line right now for the Chiefs is bad. Offensively, they don't score a lot of points. And I think on Get Up this morning, they had 4 teams that haven't scored 30 points this year, and the other 3 teams all have losing records, except for Kansas City, which has the opposite of what they should be. And that's because of Patrick Mahomes. There's no question that Patrick Mahomes is just a different animal, that his playing style gives you something else completely different to worry about. But Houston getting Nico Collins back, as long as Mixon is able to do what he can, because right now he's 90 yards shy of 1,000. But can he get past that defense that Kansas City has? That defense of Kansas City is once again starting to rise back up. And that's going to be a huge issue in this game. Which defense is going to crack? Houston definitely has some issues. I mean, that's why they're 9-5. So we'll see if C.J. Stroud's able to stay upright, make some nice, easy throws to really high percentage passes, let's put it that way. Maybe get the running game more into it to kind of make the team, the defense honest, Then you can hit Nico Collins in deep routes. Okay, Patrick Mahomes, avoid the pressure that Houston's going to bring. That's going to be another huge answer. Will the Pacquiao and Hunt really help eliminate some of the pressure Mahomes is going to face? Again, receivers kind of help out Mahomes. That's going to be a lot of chess pieces move on this board to try to see who's going to come out and who's going to get in checkmate. And it's going to be a really good game. And Kansas City right now is favored by 3. I understand why, especially Mahomes. But once again, I don't know. Maybe just me just looking for them to have another loss and just kind of mellow him down a bit. I think he might re-aggravate his ankle at some time frame, which is going to change the entire aspect of this offense because Carson Wentz is the backup. And it's going to be a different look once he gets in there. But it's going to be difficult for me to kind of go, okay, Kansas City probably should win this one because they're taking on a very good defense in Houston, a very competent offense as well with the Texans and C.J. Stroud leading that one. I'm taking Houston, edging out Kansas City. I mean, just barely beating Kansas City in a shocker. And the other Saturday game, another big-time matchup, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Now they're at M&T Bank Stadium. Tomlin is optimistic that both Pickens and Watt will be able to play, but both of them are hurt. Pickens having a hamstring, Watt also with I believe it was also ankle. And can Baltimore find ways around to beat Pittsburgh? Can Lamar Jackson with his MVP numbers? I mean, almost 3,600 yards passing, 34 passing touchdowns, and only 3 picks. That's right, 3 interceptions. He is having a phenomenal season. Definitely up there for MVP talk. King Henry, over 1,400 yards of rushing with 13 touchdowns. He should be up there on the conversation. Zay Flowers, almost 1,000 yards receiving. Only 4 touchdowns. But it's a plethora of talent right there on that offense for Baltimore. For Pittsburgh, if they don't have Pickens, that offensive game plan changes because you don't have that deep threat. You have Justin Fields in the backfield as well as another different caveat because you have that dual threat of running and passing. And the defense, if T.J. Watt can go, the Steelers have a hard time winning without him on the field. I think like 9 games have been injured. The Steelers are like 1-8. Let's put it this way. When T.J. Watt's injured, they've only won 1 game and lost way more than that. So the health of the Steelers should be a huge factor. This is going to be a big-time matchup for that AFC North division. And right now, Baltimore's favored by 6.5. I do think it might be a little bit thinner margin. I think Pickens might be able to go. I'm not too sure about Watt, but I think Pickens will not be 100%, which will decrease the offensive power Pittsburgh's going to have. And if they can hang on to the ball, that's another issue that they've been having lately. I will give it to Baltimore to win, but I think it's only going to be by 3 points. And it's going to be a very interesting race for that AFC North division for the rest of the season. Back to our regular scheduled games on Sunday. We'll head down to the ATL where the Falcons will play host to the Giants. The Giants is just a blue garbage can that someone set on fire and just pushing into the next stop. For Atlanta, they decided to go with a different change, trying to see if there's a spark with Michael Penix Jr. now starting for the Falcons. I mean, great way to start against the Giants. Giants defense will make it difficult for him. There's no question about that. But I think it's just too much talent on the Falcons' offense to really dictate otherwise. The defense will hold up. You saw what they did against the Raiders. They'll have no issues with the Giants' offense. They may make Penix Jr. look 1,000 times better than Kirk Cousins, which may not be the case. But Penix should have a decent showing. probably 2 touchdowns, 250 yards, and an interception. But Atlanta's favored by 8.5. Not too sure about that one just because of the rookie status of Penix. I will go 7, though, because I do think the Falcons will be able to beat the Giants and still keep pace with Tampa Bay for that NFC South division. Over to the Windy City, where the hibernating Bears will play host to the Lions. And the Lions got Jackals in their mix. There's a combination of quite a few prides in the one because it's just a mash unit right now for that defense. Montgomery's also out for the season, so they lost one of their running backs as well. But Gibbs is the main threat. If it wasn't for this talent that is on the offense for the Lions, I would probably say the Lions season is done. And then you look at it's the Bears, and the Bears have just done one of these numbers. You start out great, 4-2. Optimism was really high. I was even high. Even the games that they were losing, they should have won. It was ridiculous how many games that they should have beaten. They should have beaten all 3 of their division opponents and didn't. I think that stung, that hung around, that team is like, we're good, but we're not quite that good. We can't get over that hump. We can't, we start off too damn slow. We can't finish strong. We finish strong, but we can't start it early enough to win the games. And all caught up. Offensive coordinator getting canned. Eberflus getting canned. This team is in disarray right now. It is a complete mess. Caleb Williams is just getting banged around. I don't know. When it comes to this game, I have a hard time picking. Yes, I understand the Lions are a great team. They scored 42 points in a loss. We can't really stop the run. I do think Chicago will make this close just because of that defensive issue the Lions have right now. But there's too much good things about Jared Goff right now. He is having a phenomenal MVP-like season. If it wasn't quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen also having equally better seasons, Goff should be the choice. I mean, over 3,700 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, and only 10 picks because he had that one game where he threw like 5 of them and still won. Detroit's favored by 6.5. I think it's going to be lower than that. I'll probably go more the 4.5 mark because of the defense of Detroit. I do think Chicago will get some lucky plays in there. I almost went with Chicago, but I'm to the point now. I'm like, no. If they're going to win anything, it'll probably be the last week of the season because no one's going to care. And taking Detroit to win in Chicago. The Buckeye showdown in the jungles of Cincinnati, and right now the Bengals are starting to thrive. They're starting to click. They're starting to get those wins. They're 6-8 right now, struggling to get into that playoff picture. Maybe they start a little too late. Maybe some other things broke earlier in other weeks when they got wins instead of losses. But they got over that hurdle against the Cowboys, knocked off Tennessee, kind of bring the Browns. The Browns just, couldn't do anything against Kansas City last week. And I think Cincinnati's looking to really make a statement. Burrow also having almost MVP-like numbers as well, 4,000 yards passing, almost. 36 touchdowns, 6 picks. Jamar Chase, 1,400 yards receiving with 15 touchdowns. I mean, this Cincinnati offense is just humming. The offensive line is porous as well. That defense is atrocious. Right now, Cincinnati's favored by 7.5. I like it. I'm taking Cincinnati. Head up to Indianapolis, where Mason Rudolph will lead the Titans to take on Richardson and the Colts. And right now, the Colts are favored by 3.5. I think the Colts are also one of these teams are kind of hanging on that thin ice for that final playoff position, looking for the Chargers to kind of slip up so they can start creeping up. That's going to be one of those games they have to win. I don't think Mason Rudolph is the answer in Tennessee. I think there's too many issues with that team as well. And I'm taking the Colts are favored by 3.5. I like it. Colts. The Rams head over to MetLife to take on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Matthew Stafford having a phenomenal season himself, 3,400 yards passing, 19 touchdowns and 7 picks. But when he has his full complement of toys to play with, he is great. Aaron Rodgers also, if he has his full complement of toys, he's also great. These are two great quarterbacks that know each other very, very well from the old days of the NFC North when they were Detroit and Green Bay, respectively. Well, I think the Rams are just on a different plane level right now than the Jets are. The Jets will definitely make this close. And you might see a game much like Rams and Bills. It will be a shootout, and I do think it will be a shootout. Right now, the Rams are favored by 3. I like those odds as well because I do think, like I said, it's going to be a shootout. They're both going to be putting up points up there. Both looking at probably have about 300 yards passing, both from about 4 touchdowns each. And it's just which team doesn't make the mistake, which team gets the critical 3-and-out or punt situation. I think the Rams might pull it off just one more time than the Jets do, but I will take the Rams over the Jets. Eagles head to D.C. to take on the Commanders, and can the resurgent Eagles get back up there? Do now they go back to Saquon and let him run amok and then mix in the passing afterwards? Can Scary Terry light up the Eagles secondary? Can Jason Daniels do the same thing, trying to find ways to either pass over the Eagles or find ways to run? I think Washington will kind of make this close. Right now it's a 3.5 spread in favor of the Eagles. I kind of like that as well. It's going to be a huge divisional game. Washington does have people chasing them. They need to get a win eventually. I don't think it's going to be this game. Just making sure that I'm following my notes over here. But yeah, I do like Philadelphia in this matchup. 3.5. I might lead to a 4-point advantage. I don't know. Kind of uneasy with the point spread, but right now the way the Eagles are playing, I like how the Eagles are going. Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles. Out the Charlotte, and Arizona comes into town. Arizona, one of these teams that's looking to continue winning. Got that great win against New England, and it's time for them to take the next step. Carolina had an opportunity to knock off Dallas, failed to do so. I'm not sure why they couldn't knock off Dallas. I mean, everything was kind of in their court, and they just failed to capitalize. But Arizona is just one of these teams you can't overlook because they will find ways to beat you. This is the team I overlooked at the beginning of the season. I will admit to that. But they continue to kind of find ways to win, and then they go back to the Cardinals that I expected to see. I do expect the Cardinals to have a decent game in this one. They're 2-4 right now, away from their nest. So they got to find ways to win on the road. Best way to do it is in Charlotte. They're favored by 4.5. I kind of like those odds as well. Big Red in the Cardinals. Seattle now has to host another NFC North powerhouse in the Minnesota Vikings. And this should be interesting. Geno Smith got knocked out of the Green Bay game. Looked like he kind of twisted his knee, so unsure about his status for Sunday's game against the Vikings. If it's Howard in the backfield, there's no chance. The way Sam Darnold's playing right now for the Vikings, he's having a phenomenal year. He had a couple bad weeks, which kind of, I think, took him out any kind of consideration for MVP. Maybe comeback player of the year. Could be an honor he's going to get. He's just thriving under this system. And Justin Jefferson is just having a field day. 1,200 yards receiving with 8 touchdowns. And Aaron Jones, almost a 1,000-yard rusher with 5 touchdowns. I don't think Seattle can stop those. Minnesota's secondary will be tested with the speedsters Seattle has. But if Geno can go. I'm not sure how or have the ability to make those connections. Right now, Minnesota's favored by 3. I think it will be higher. I am taking the Vikings, but I do think it's going to be at least by 6. Patriots come to town to take on the Bills. The Bills are looking to hopefully take advantage of some Kansas City stumbles now with the question marks with Mahomes. And Josh Allen just took the team on his back against Detroit. And James Cook showed up for a good rushing touchdown. I mean, it was a great performance by Buffalo. Defensively, not so much. That's going to be one of the Achilles heels for the Bills right now. Is that secondary is just strong as wet paper. The good thing is, it's New England. Not much to really be scared about with the Patriots. But I think the Patriots will kind of keep this close just because it's a divisional game for a while. Buffalo's going to find ways to exploit that. The Buffalo's actually favored by 14. And it's a big number. If Buffalo can do what they've done against the Rams and the Lions, New England's in trouble. And I don't see anyone stopping Josh Allen right now, except for Josh Allen. Yeah, Buffalo. Sure, you can take the points too. I think it's going to be like that. We have to Vegas for one of the toilet bowls. There's nothing about that. Combined, you have 5 wins. You also have backup quarterbacks as your starter. Ritter get his start again with the Raiders. He had some bright spots, but the defense was finding him too much in the backfield, and he is scrambling most of his life. Mac Jones for the Jaguars actually did pretty good against the Jets. But he does have a tendency to throw a lot of picks, which is, not helping much. And I don't know. I think I give it more to Mac Jones in terms of quarterback because he does have those years in New England where he had some experience and some good games in there as well. As long as he limits his mistakes, he'll be all right. If Ritter can find Bowers enough times for Vegas, that'll help that Raiders offense. And that Raiders defensive line should spell trouble for Jacksonville. Right now, it's even. They kind of give a slight advantage to Las Vegas, but it is a coin flip. If you're doing a parlay or anything like that, avoid this game at all costs. Yeah, this is going to be one of those weird matchups. Well, I'm taking Mac Jones over Ritter. It's just he has more experience under his belt. And I'll give it to the Jaguars, edging out the Raiders. Head down to Miami, where the Dolphins playing host to the 49ers. Both teams, slim chances for the playoffs. 49ers have more grander expectations, maybe try and get back to that divisional title, but the 2 games out from there. Definitely need to win this game to keep place. Both Purdy. Hey, I combined his first name. It's supposed to be Brock Purdy. Wow. And Tua Tagovailoa, both great young quarterbacks. They both have bright futures, especially if they can stay healthy. Both have some decent weapons surrounding them. Injuries have really kind of hampered the 49ers this season. They've had make changes and make do and whatnot. But San Francisco couldn't really get much going against the Rams last week with that huge defense. Now they had a little bit of a bye. I mean, they played last Thursday. Now they don't play until late Sunday. So some time to kind of rest and recuperate, try and get some players back, get the game plan going. I kind of like San Francisco a little bit more than Miami. Right now, Miami's favored by 1.5, so definitely one of these games that can go either direction. But I think both these teams are going to find themselves outside looking in. It's just where they're going to rack and stack in the draft I think is where they're going to go, which mid pick they're going to get. I don't know. I kind of like the 49ers a little bit in this one. It's just ever so slightly, but I will take the 49ers to win to Miami. Buccaneers will then be invading Arlington to take on the Cowboys. And don't expect Cooper Rush to have the exact same game he had last week. Tampa's defense, a little more bite to it. Baker Mayfield, definitely not a quarterback to overlook either. He's had a pretty decent season himself with over 3,600 yards passing. Well, I said receiving. 32 touchdowns and 14 picks. He will make the errant throws. That's just what Baker does. Baker does have a lot of success in AT&T Stadium as well. But can the defense really hamper Baker enough? If you give Baker time to cook, he will cook. And I do think that they will find ways. Right now, Tampa Bay's favored by 4. I think Tampa Bay edge them out. Then on Monday night, the Saints head up to the Frozen Tundra of Lambeau Field, take on the Packers. Yeah. I do think the Saints may put up a little bit of a fight in the beginning, but if Green Bay get that hot start like they did against Seattle, it's going to be a different story. But I do think Green Bay has a lot more weapons, better suited for this type of environment. I mean, it's going to be below freezing up there in Green Bay. So everything is in the Packers' favor. Love, like I say, starts off slow, but if Josh Jacobs can actually get running and start doing it, because he's over 1,000-yard rusher, as long as he's the key focal point. Alvin Kamara is going to try to do his darndest to get up there. Rattler might have some good passes and whatnot, but I don't think he's going to be that effective. Green Bay's favored by 14, another double-digit favor this week. I'm not going to push back on that either. I'm going to take Green Bay in the win, and I think Green Bay probably inching closer to clinching their spot in the playoffs as well, and I'll take the Packers. There you go. There's 16 for Week 16. Let me know what you think. Who do you think I got wrong? I mean, did I go a bit of a stretch for Houston over Kansas City? Possibly. I've been doing that all season long, and Kansas City proves me wrong. So, I mean, sooner I got to be right? Let's mix it up in the comments below. Especially let me know which ones you think got wrong. Which one which edge pick do you like the most? Is your team still in the playoff hunt? Mine definitely is not. But my picks for Super Bowl are still hanging around. So we'll see what happens with that. With that question, and my statement: are your teams for the Super Bowl still in? Mix it up. The more we interact, the better to boost the algorithm, the almighty YouTube algorithm to play homage to feed us with nonsensical nonsense like myself. And just ramble for no apparent reason. But if you like what I do, hit that thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Another thing you can do, especially to help support this channel, is to subscribe. It costs you a low price of 0 pesos. So absolutely nothing. All you do is hit that subscribe button, click that bell icon, turn on notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.